Hello, good morning. How do you do? Yeah. People think it's funny when I say good morning, but it's always a good morning in Web3. And so we're talking about Polkadot and also a little bit about Web3. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So this is a recent blog post from Vitalik Buterin. And he says, make Ethereum cypherpunk again. So essentially what he's saying in the article, I'm abbreviating, is that Ethereum got so big, fees are so expensive, there is so much at stake that there's not so much experimentation going on in sort of the really groundbreaking stuff. It's more like building up this industry. And he's making this call to let's think again about all the crazy things we could do with crypto. And he's mentioning in this piece here, Gavin Wood. So Gavin Wood was the guy that coined the term Web3. He was one of the co-founders of Ethereum. He is the guy that wrote the EVM specification, so the virtual machine that Ethereum is running on. And yeah, so he was a very early part of Ethereum, but he was not so happy with all of the developments of Ethereum. And he decided to found Polkadot. And so I want to go a little bit into the mindset of what we mean when we talk about Web3, and then we talk about Polkadot. So what is Web3, what is Polkadot, 7 things you should know about Polkadot, some of the use cases that we currently see, a comparison, and no, the last 2 things we will skip so that we are mindful of our time today. So what I would like to see is who here has heard of Polkadot before today? Okay, who here sort of thinks they could explain Polkadot? This is excellent. You're learning so much today. This is excellent. Great. Okay. Good. That's good enough for me. Okay. My name is Tommy. I think that's all you need to know about me. FH Technikum Wien is where I studied, so in Vienna, and I'm very happy to represent a guy from crypto that is in Austria and working in Web3 because Web3 is just exciting for me. Yeah, and I'm leading growth for Magata Finance. And as involved, you find me on Twitter and YouTube. I am doing educational stuff, so if you want to learn about Polkadot in a fun way, then you can follow me. So just to revisit why we do crypto, because this gives us the answer of why we need Web3. We had Bitcoin in the beginning, and Bitcoin, the idea of why do we want Bitcoin is that there is a major fuck up going on in the financial system every year and in many different countries. And we came up with Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto came up with Bitcoin. And so it's sort of this revolution where we say, can we build an internet that represents value? And I like to compare Bitcoin to a calculator because it's a very simple thing and it can shift numbers around, and it's all it does, and it does it very good. And so this problem that we're seeing and that Web3 is countering is that in a globalized network world with globalized network problems. And so we're building a global network system to find solutions for that. So Vitalik Buterin was very butthurt when he was 14 and he was playing World of Warcraft, and then his favorite character got nerfed. So one of his magic spells just got nerfed by Blizzard, and he was crying himself to sleep. And so this is one of the genesis stories that we have for Ethereum. So he was thinking about, can we build a system that cannot be manipulated if we don't want to allow this? And so we're seeing, with Ethereum, we're seeing this creation of applications. So it's not only money, like in Bitcoin, it's money apps. So we can build applications where we can shift money around. And so we talked about the Internet of Value in 2017. And we don't talk about this word so much anymore. And I believe it's because we replaced it with a bigger, more encompassing concept, and that is Web3. So we had Web 1, which was basically, I publish my website, I control it, it's under my domain. But it's what's boring. And so we invented Web 2, and it's all of these cool things here, which is Web 2, so it's the interactive web. It's where we can do stuff, but we're losing control. And so the big question why we need Web 3 is that essentially, if you buy your skin in Fortnite, which is, maybe you're not the audience, but my son is the audience because he's 14 and he likes to buy skins. They could be taken away at any point in time. And maybe it would create more Vitaliks in the world, but wouldn't it be great if we can just keep the stuff and maybe create an ecosystem where we can make it even more expressive and powerful? right? This is a very practical thing. Can I move my WhatsApp stickers from one phone to the next without having like a lot of trouble, but I just log in with sort of my identity and it's preserved in a global state that I can just keep. But to make it a little bit more serious, in the case of Polkadot, one of the original ideas is also that you're seeing institutions that are controlled, that are corrupted. Edward Snowden is one of the representation of those things, where you have an intelligence service that does just things that the American public in this case did not know and maybe did not approve of. And here on the right side we have Gavin Wood. Beach photo is very popular in the Polkadot community because he looks like a badass. Every nerd wants to have a guru on top that looks like a badass. But they were actually meeting, so they were not in the same room, but they were having a conversation at one of these, I think it was a Web3 Foundation or Parity Technologies hosted conference. And so they actually had a conversation. And this is because one thing that Gavin Wood cares about is that these institutions that we're creating, that we want to have different organizations and institutions, and they have different rules of governance and control and ownership. And there is not a single governance system that you can put on top of all of it. So governance is when I and my friends agree on, we're going drinking tonight, how do we share the bill? Or governance is we're making an association or foundation because we have a common good that we want to fund. Or it's making a company. And so all of these systems have different forms of governance, modes of governance. So how can we transport this idea into crypto? And so one idea is to build blockchains, and every blockchain can have its own governance system, right? So you not only have Ethereum governance or Bitcoin governance, but the idea of building multiple blockchains. But this creates a problem because Bitcoin is very secure, Ethereum is very secure, and then if you look at all the other blockchains, at least the small ones, they are not so secure because there's not a lot of economic security or not a lot of hash rate. So we have this idea that we want to build a lot of blockchains that can represent different organizations, different logic and so on, but we are lacking the security. So can we construct a system, can we build a system that provides us with a high economic security, that provides us with an interoperability, but allows us to define our own rules, change the rules of the game, and create our own rules for the systems that we build. And so this is Polkadot. One of the mottos that we're having is less trust, more truth. And you see that it's stated in relative terms. So we're trying to avoid the absolutes, because if you're building human systems, if you're building social systems, they don't work in absolutes, they work in relatives. So there's not so much space for maximalism in Polkadot. Yeah, and so what we're doing is we have Bitcoin as the calculator, we have Ethereum, sorry, I'm moving out of frame, right? We have Bitcoin as the calculator and we have Ethereum as the computer. And what we're doing with Polkadot is actually we're building a computer network. So blockchains are like computers. And what we want to do in Polkadot, also for example in Cosmos, is we want to build networks of blockchains that can communicate together. So sort of a lot of the things that you see in crypto is basically a reinvention of the internet, just at a much faster pace. So what is Polkadot? This is our favorite image and how we would like to represent this. So we have like a consortium, not a consortium, but we have a lot of different blockchains that are working in parallel and they're working together. So Polkadot is a lot of different things when we talk about Polkadot. We can mean a protocol, we can talk about the network of blockchains, tech stack, an ecosystem, a community. So I want to make this a little bit simpler for you today. And so I want to talk about like a few simple concepts that we talk about when we talk about Polkadot. So 7 things you should know about Polkadot. And first thing is the relay chain. So the relay chain is it's very important for the Polkadot people, it's not very important for the rest of the world. But it helps us it gives us this central concept on where we can attach everything to. So the relay chain is basically, it's this component where all the other blockchains can connect to. And what it does is it provides us with shared security. So it's a proof of stake system. Currently it has $5 billion in economic security. And it can share the security with every blockchain. So we can now kill this problem of saying that I'm creating my own layer 1 blockchain, but it only has, I don't know, a few $1,000 or a few $1 million in economic security, which makes it easily attackable. or at least you can, if you're a competitor, at least put it out of service. So we don't want that. And so Polkadot, the first thing, one of the two big things it does is provide shared security. It allows you to come under the security umbrella, and you're building your blockchain, and it is secured by $5 billion of economic value. So you need a lot of money to attack the whole network. The whole network protects each other. And the second big thing is it allows interoperability. So what I mean by that is we have this Polkadot parachains, we have these blockchains, and when I'm bridging tokens between these different blockchains, it takes 6 seconds, 12 seconds. So typically when you're bridging tokens today, it takes maybe 10 minutes, or it takes an hour, it takes 24 hours, or you're waiting, you don't know, is it lost? Do I need to contact the support or something? Because bridges they are not as developed. Polkadot, 12 seconds. I did a cross-chain transfer between 4 different chains in under 2 minutes recently. And how we do this, we'll get to that. 6-second finality. So finality basically is the question of when can I trust information. For example, in Polkadot you say, in Bitcoin you say, let's wait 6 blocks and then it's fairly secure, which is an hour on average. In Ethereum it's, I believe, 12 seconds or so. And then, but the beautiful thing is it's also in the interoperable sense. So messages get passed across in 6 seconds also, which is fast in blockchain terms. Polkadot likes to be minimalistic, so it does not want to provide you with the ability to do smart contracts, because that's a job for the blockchains. So there are blockchains, there are parachains, these parallelized chains, and the parallelized chains, they allow you to deploy smart contracts, and that might be EVM smart contracts, or Rust smart contracts, or JavaScript, or Python, or whatever. So the idea is the relay chain wants to do as little as possible, because if you just keep stacking on all the problems that you're solving, you might make the wrong decisions. But if you sort of leave that out for the parachains, the beautiful thing is there is a competition, there is an open market of ideas of what is the best solution. Maybe EVM smart contracts are the best, but maybe not. Maybe Rust smart contracts are the best in the future, or different tech stacks. And so we're pushing all these problems out to the parachains, and the relay chain only focuses on shared security and interoperability. And this is mind-blowing, forkless upgrades, which means there is no hard fork happening when the chain upgrades. It is basically just voting. There is a new runtime that's being upgraded, and it happens from one block to the other. There's no outage. The network just keeps running, which allows you, for example, I don't know, Bitcoin has a hard fork every 4 years or so roughly, and then Ethereum does maybe like 2 a year or so, and I think Cardano is sort of 4 a year or some pace of that. And in Polkadot we just don't count because it happens, I don't know, it can happen every month or whatever. We are not counting. Yeah, so parachains. Okay, first relay chain, second parachains, parallel chains, and they attach to Polkadot, and they rent block space in long time intervals. So currently 48 weeks, which means, for example, in Ethereum, the equivalent to parachains is sort of layer 2s, right? But there can be gas wars. So if there's an NFT drop, that means that for 12 hours or for 24 hours, gas prices go insane. That means if you're operating a layer 2 network, you also have to pay an uncalculatable amount of gas, because you just don't know how much gas there is. If there is a competition, it could mean that your layer 2 network on Ethereum is stalling because you just cannot afford the gas. Yeah. So, but if you have a guaranteed block space, a guaranteed execution, like this is your fixed slot, this is like renting a room for a year instead of from block to block basis. It gives you a lot of predictability, and that means if you're, for example, operating a DeFi product, it just does not stop because there is an NFT drop happening somewhere else, which can happen in Ethereum. So no gas wars. You can pick your block time also. So beautiful thing, all of this is built on the Polkadot SDK. Also, we call it Substrate. So you don't, if you're building in Polkadot, you get this free SDK, you can download it, you can compile it, run it on your machine, and it happens in 1 hour. I tested it myself. So that means you can download it from clicking the download button to running your own blockchain on your computer that does nothing, but it runs. It's 1 hour. I only know 2 products of that quality, which is the Cosmos SDK and it's the Polkadot SDK. And the cool thing is you don't need to attach it to Polkadot. You can also just run your own solo chain, or you can fork Polkadot if you want and run your own relay chain. So it's there for you, it's for free, you can use it. And the great thing is it has the modules we call pallets, so it's basically open source, and you can like put pallets together, and this is your chain. So there's an identity pallet, a staking pallet, maybe you want to have a DEX pallet, and so on. Like, so similar to smart contracts, but complete modules. And since it's our chain, it's our rules. So this is where the core idea is coming from, that we can now build our own systems of governance. So you can define the features, you can define system parameters, you can decide on mutability or immutability. So can things change or can they not change? Because sometimes you want it like this, right? Tokenomics and your own governance system. Is this governance system, is it like one company? Is it all the token holders? Is it a selected council? Or is it just one person that holds the master key? You can pick. Yeah, so we have blockchains, and now they want to interoperate. They want to work together and talk with each other. The technology we use for it is called XCM, which stands for cross-consensus messaging. And because we're working Polkadot, we have 6-second finality. It means you can pass a message in 6 seconds. And that means all these blockchains can now communicate with each other. And so what we get emerging from that is that we have, you can see this like your computer. So your computer has a CPU, it has a RAM, it has a graphics card, it maybe has an audio card. So you have all these different components. And so you can consider that all of these blockchains are like components in your computer. So we're building a global supercomputer that maybe can run AI, that can run identity, that can do all of those things, and all of those applications can work together and cooperate. And all of this is solved, working since 2 years ago. We have BridgeHub, which is light client based, so it's state of the art. Will connect to Ethereum and Kusama next month. And the substrate, so Polkadot SDK, the substrate is adopted also by Cardano now, Polygon Avail and Near, which means they're working with this technology, which means like they can be interoperable if they want, which sometimes some people see as competition of, oh no, they're using our technology. And I don't see it that way. I see this as a very good thing because, I don't know, if Cardano ever, wenn die irgendwann mal Gas geben, if they ever get into their gears, we could work together with them. Same for Polygon Avail and Near. So is it all Polkadot? Yes, it always has been. Good. System chains. So because Polkadot likes minimalism, and we don't like to, this is really, okay, now it should be gone. Thank you. Okay, so because Polkadot likes minimalism and doesn't like to do a lot of stuff, we are outsourcing a lot of this stuff, and there is stuff that is not up to the open market. It's not something that you can do if you want to make money, but there is common goods that everyone needs. Like we have public infrastructure. And so the system chains, I did not finish this slide. One very good one is Asset Hub. And then we have also BridgeHub and collectives. So let's just say Asset Hub is very good because you can have assets that are not part of smart contracts. So in Ethereum and in every EVM-based system, it's very easy to get wrecked because you don't know the rules that are working behind the token. It can be anything because the smart contract can be anything, right? And so if you're not auditing every single token, like you have to audit every single token, which makes it very inaccessible. For Asset Hub, the beautiful thing is every token is working under the same logic. The logic cannot be manipulated. So if you're emitting a token, there are canonical tokens. For example, USDT, USDC, we have now canonical on Asset Hub. And you can expect they work under the same rule as every other token on Asset Hub. And then we have BridgeHub, which connects us to Ethereum. So this is sort of the basic infrastructure that allows you to not get wrecked. Good. Last thing, OpenGov. No, second to last thing, OpenGov. OpenGov. So Polkadot is the biggest DAO on the planet, at least money-wise. And maybe not people-wise yet, but I think we're getting there because there's just so much money. It's very beautiful right now to see all of this happening because it's like, in a good way, a very big fight about what to do with our big pile of money. Do we spend it on marketing? Do we spend it on development? Do we spend it on research and so on? And there's a lot of different groups now, or not a lot yet, but there is groups that are sort of forming sort of political factions. Full token holder governance, we have a treasury, and the mechanisms that we're working with is proposals, tips, and bounties. So proposal is, I will do this for X money, and then token holders can vote yes and no. And we have like big conversations. There is our own dedicated show that's happening 2 times a week, just discussing opening up. Tips is if you did something nice and they want to throw money at you after the fact. So this is how I got finally hooked on Polkadot. Is in 2 years ago, I did videos just like for fun, and then at one point in time, I just got 2,000 euros in a tip, and I'm like, this is maybe I should quit my job. And collectives, which is sort of the executive arm of governance. So token holders are deciding what should be done, and then it should be done. And so you need to, mostly humans have to do this work. And so we have sort of this on-chain primitive, which is collectives, which is basically a group of people that are having a payroll. And so right now we have the system in Polkadot where we have these collectives. The technical fellowship is the first collective. It's the core developers essentially. And now they're not getting paid by any foundation or by any company, they are getting paid by Polkadot. But because it's hard to pay in DOT, because you don't know what the value of DOT will be, so now everything is coming together because we have cross-chain communication. So Polkadot itself is ordering from a DEX in the ecosystem via a trustless cross-chain manner, is ordering a streaming swap. So it's swapping DOT for USDC, I believe. Over, I don't know, 2 months. So over a 2-month period, they are saying we are buying $1.something million in USDC. They are getting this USDC, they're transferring it to this other collective chain, and then they are payrolling the developers. I don't know, for me this is awesome. This is something that just, all of this just fell in place last month, and I was mind blown. I was thinking, we were waiting so long for Polkadot to deliver, and now all of these pieces are coming into place. We're having this monthly OpenF calls. You see me there hosting this with my weird attitude. And last point, Signtail ecosystem Liquid AMC. I like this thing, this is a product, and this is, I'm not financial advisor, and so I make very bad investment decisions. And I'm also not telling you to buy this or not buy this, I'm just informing you. This is like it's like an ETP or something, so it's like an index fund. And this is like a few products from the Polkadot ecosystem that have been selected by Signtail. This essentially gives sort of, my understanding is institutional access to getting access to Polkadot. Okay, what's my timing? It's bad, right? Okay, then let's see, then we will shorten this and we'll just talk about the most relevant ones. I'm a big fan of Peak, so we'll pick that and we will pick Kilt and Energy Web, that's it. So Peak, maybe you know this Elo cars, that is car sharing in Vienna.
Yeah.
It runs on Polkadot. So not all of them, but 21 of the Tesla models have been tokenized as securities. So you can buy those tokens, and then you're earning a share every time someone is driving with that car. And you get it either as credit and you can drive yourself, or you get, I don't know, USDC or something into a wallet. And then you're like, I'm driving around Vienna, and then I see one of those and I'm thinking, wow, there's Polkadot driving in front of me. Energy Web, we don't have good pictures because this is not what they do, but what they do is it's like they're putting together energy consortiums and energy groups, and it's whole industry. But essentially, it's like trading energy on the blockchain. And it's a very interesting practical case that I like to explain to people, because if you're working together with other companies that you're competitors with, like you want to cooperate, but you're also a competitor. So you don't want to trust each other, but where do you put your data if you're cooperating with them? So this is a very good practical example of doing something on the blockchain, secured by Polkadot soon, and let those competitors cooperate, right? And I think this is one of the great things that crypto and Web3 in general does. With Bitcoin, trustless, so not with a centralized entity in between. This is Interlay, and I like Kilt. Kilt is essentially decentralized identity. So you have your Google login with Google button, login with Facebook button, and you have to trust those companies to deal with your data, and then make sure that you're not, because you're bored, you just click accept, share my data because you want to log in somewhere. So what you have here is that maybe you just want to communicate you are of legal age to do something, or you're of a certain gender, or you're of a certain nationality, and not more. You just want to share exactly the information you want to share. So this is something you can do with decentralized identity. So you're not giving data to another company, but you say, it's worth to me to pay for that to stay in control of my data. Decentralized storage, compute, a lot of great things. Tracking data, getting truth. I'm running out of time, so I need to finish. And that means in a globalized network world, we need globalized network solutions. I think Polkadot is an excellent way to provide this to us. And so if you want to get started in Polkadot, there are a few things you can look at. So Nova and Talisman are wallets that are really excellent. Kussamarian is a daily news source, so they're doing daily news, a really good job. .lit newsletter, and the Polkadot forum, if you want to see the nerds nerding, then this is the right place to do. So last slide here, and then I'm done. Alice und Bob. This is an in-joke for the security researchers. And for everyone else, it's just a weird, funny name. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you.